Hello and welcome to Inside Modular, the podcast of commercial modular construction, brought to you by the Modular Building Institute. With a compact footprint, variety of unit options, and seamless system management, City Multi-Variable Refrigerant Flow Zoning Systems from Mitsubishi Electric Trane HVAC US are a one-stop solution for modular projects. With efficient operation and the ability to connect to commercial ventilation equipment, third-party systems, and comprehensive control solutions, City Multi-VRF can help you meet energy and performance goals on your next project. From off-site development to on-site assembly, you can trust our manufacturer-level support to guide you from system selection to design to startup, no matter the application. To learn more about our offerings, visit MitsubishiPro.com. Welcome everyone, my name is John McMullen and I'm the Marketing Director here at MBI. Today I'm talking with Joanna Schwartz, CEO of Quartz Properties Management. Joanna is here to talk about her company's development of modular-based residential communities around the country. Joanna, welcome.
Hi, John. Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you. So tell me about yourself. What's your background and how were you introduced to modular construction?
Oh, my. Well, it's a little bit of a circuitous story. The short answer is in about 30 years of working, I've spent about 20 of those years in various forms of real estate, mostly on the finance side.
Okay.
I was in the mortgage business for many years. I was dabbled a little bit in the equity crowdfunding world, but I was never a developer and I was never doing the project. And about 5 years ago, I moved up to Boston and I said, well, I'm going to change that because every time I'm always analyzing a deal, I always was jealous of the people actually on the ground doing the deal, making the project, building neighborhoods, changing communities. And so I decided that I wanted to be a developer. I started doing a few projects with a few different groups of folks up here in the Boston area. And they were fine. They went well, but nothing really stuck. Subsequently, I decided to partner up with an old mentor and boss of mine, David Quint, who is now primary partner at Quartz Properties. That's how we got our fun little name. Quint and Schwartz is Quartz Properties.
Uh-huh.
And a little secret. We decided that we wanted to do something interesting in the real estate sector together, but we weren't exactly sure what. Separately, I was doing a renovation on my house up here, and we were struggling to find people to do the work, and we couldn't get a good deal. And then all of a sudden, I saw these amazing houses being built in my neighborhood, and they were going up like one after the other super quickly, and they were gorgeous. And so I reached out to the guy who was building them. I'm like, what is this? What are you doing? And he was the one who told me, oh, these are modular houses, and I can build you a brand new house in 8 months if you want, from start to finish. Now, that wasn't what we needed to do, so we didn't do it, but I completely enamored right from then, and we started researching the potential of modular, and as you know, it is still a very underused form of construction in the United States. Only 2 to 3% of single-family homes are done through modular, which confounds me to no end. It's, as we know, more efficient, more green, more cost-effective. It works better for the labor markets. There are so many benefits to it. And so we just decided, you know what? We are going to figure out how to make modular a bigger component of the single-family housing market. We're going to try to do our small part to address the chronic housing shortage in this country. And we're going to use modular as a primary tool to help us do that. And so Quartz Properties was born. We were originally called Builder's Partner for a year or two because initially we're not builders. We thought, we are now, but we weren't then. And we thought, well, let's go find builders and give them the financial strength and capacity to build more and to focus on modular and grow their own businesses. We found a lot of resistance in the market for people. They didn't want to transition to modular. They didn't understand modular. And finally, about a year and a half into our effort, we said, okay, we're going to really just dive in. And not only are we going to become developers, but we're actually going to become builders. We're going to go in and buy land, build communities, and see how we can take this. That was in 2018. And then we were off to the races. We bought our first development, which is called Pageant Place in Black Mountain, North Carolina. And have just been on an incredible ride since then, growing and expanding.
Well, it sounds like it. It sounds like it. And those are some very ambitious goals that you touched on. I was wondering if you could dive into that a little bit more and tell me about how you're working with builders and forming those relationships and really making it possible to achieve everything that you want to achieve.
Well, so our goal, we are, to the best of our knowledge, the only modular-centric home builder that is, seeks to become a top 100 home builder in the United States, which is defined, I don't know, the last time I looked at the list, it's kind of like 1,100 units per year. So we're nowhere close to that, but we fully expect to achieve that, sometime in the next several years. And so, we do have very lofty goals. We are now building communities that are both for sale, and we target our sale prices to be at kind of the midpoint of the range for prices in a certain market.
Okay. We
are now also starting to do projects that are what are called build for rent. So they are purpose-built communities. Same process as building a community for sale. We buy raw land, we develop the land, but then when we build the houses, instead of selling them, we rent them. And that is becoming a very large segment, an important segment in the housing market. So we are doing projects that fit both of those business models right now.
Gotcha. So when you're buying the land, you're planning and designing these communities. How do you go about that? Are these planned unit developments, or are they something different?
So we have a library now of home designs that we are very comfortable with. They range, in size from about 1,300 square feet to 2,400 square feet. We have ranches, we have some capes. We're now finalizing our first townhome. And when we go in, we're doing smaller size communities. So typically we're not competing with the large tract builders. We are not doing anything custom. So when we go in, we have a few floor plans, we have a few exterior designs, and we have a few interior packages. We make all the decisions ourselves. And one of the kind of mantras is it's like attainable luxury. So we have all the features that someone would really want in a beautiful home. We have the countertops and the appliances and the beautiful showers and all of that, but no one has to pay extra for it. It's all just included in our base price. We tend, because modular has to be built on a foundation, it can't be built on a crawl space. We already know we're paying more for foundation. So we actually look for projects that, while it's nice when the land is flat, in the areas where we are, it tends not to be. And then that just gives us a little bit more flexibility. And again, we're not competing with the tract builders. So, some units have basements, some have garages, some have a walkout in the back. They all, they have a big deck. So so each house can be a little bit different in each neighborhood, and it really is dependent on the topography of where we are.
Are there, besides the land itself, are there any other criteria that you look at when choosing where to build?
Well, we have really fallen in love with a few areas and communities, in particular Western North Carolina. And our model down there is that we are now starting to vertically integrate our business. So we're a construction company, we're a general contractor in North Carolina. We are about to actually build out our own transportation capabilities for actually hauling and setting the modulars. And we have found that the more resources you actually have on the ground that you fully control, the better the outcomes are. So we originally started out saying, we're going to go everywhere really quickly. And we have retreated from that because we really see the benefit in going deep in a market and really getting a lot of capability. So that's what we're doing in Western North Carolina. In Colorado, we have an excellent partner in a company called Fading West.
Yep.
And they are our factory and our general contractor. And we are almost finished with phase one of a 4-phase project with them. And we are very, very pleased with how that's going.
And then you guys are in...
So we have some land in Idaho that is still in pre-development. And we are working on finalizing the project team for that, for those lots as we speak. And, every time you go into a new place, you have to kind of start. There is a lot of starting from scratch. So while we are excited about expanding into new markets, we're also excited about going deeper into the markets that we have. There's so much opportunity in where we already are operating that we're planning to go a little bit deeper in those markets as well.
That's very exciting. I want to loop back. You had mentioned your first project a few minutes ago. It was called Pageant Place. I was wondering if you could tell us the genesis of that and what lessons have you been able to learn from there and apply to your other projects.
Okay, sure. Pageant Place was honestly such a great first project for us, and we learned a tremendous amount and have taken all of those lessons with us everywhere we've gone. So number one, the way we got that project actually was a lead from a modular factory who knew that we were looking for our first project, and they called us and said, listen, we know the person who owns this land, they are struggling to actually turn it into a finance project, and maybe you can jump in and help them. And that was the genesis of how we got involved with that project. And it happened very, very quickly. I think one of the things that was very interesting from the beginning is that we realized that while, yes, modular has its own advantages of being, faster and more efficient once you get them to the site, it still doesn't change all of the other components that need to go into creating a development from scratch, meaning all of the planning, the engineering, and the actual just land development of it, right? Like clearing the land, building the roads, putting in the utilities. And that is, for us on this project, was really the long pole in the tent, because we were particularly inexperienced in that area. Mm-hmm. And it was a very steep learning curve for a bunch of, honestly, pencil pushers who had never been on the ground before. It was a pretty steep learning curve for us, but we got through it, and fortunately, we had some good, third parties who put an excellent plan in place, and we just had to implement it. And that development has been incredibly successful for us. We were able to, once we dove into the modular piece, we were able to create the beginnings of our design library and of our finished packages and a lot of the features that now we're really known for. And the people who live in that community are extremely happy. They love their homes. They love their community. It's only going to be 43 homes. So they're a very tight-knit group, smallish lots. They're very friendly. They socialize all the time. And it's definitely very satisfying to kind of go through there and see that this was once just a field, and now it is a thriving community of happy people living in a beautiful location. So
that's awesome. I had a follow-up question. You mentioned a learning curve a second ago, and I have to imagine there are several. One of them I'm really curious about is how your manufacturing capabilities have changed since you started. You described yourself as a pencil pusher, but I'm sure you're more than that. But going from an office setting to manufacturing houses is a big leap. You mentioned Fading West was a partner of yours. How has that evolved?
Yeah, so we actually do not own our own factories. Everything, all of the houses are manufactured by third parties. Fading West is the only partner that we have that manufactures and actually also serves as the general contractor. On the East Coast, we are the contractor for our projects, and and that's a broad term. In North Carolina, we're the contractor for our project, and we get everything from factories.
Okay.
So, but there was a huge learning curve with that, and we have bought homes from at least 5 different factories at this point. We have our favorites, and we have forged a very strong relationship with that factory, and they're now supplying all of our homes for the 2 projects on the East Coast that are under construction right now. So there is a big learning curve, and the factories need to learn who you are and what you are. But we're at a point now where we can tell them, we want an extended porch, willow, elevation C with a shale finish package, and they know exactly what that means, and we'll have and they can put the order through pretty much immediately for us.
I see.
So that's pretty powerful. But to get to that point where you can order your house like you're ordering your dinner on DoorDash, that is a pretty steep learning curve, not just for us, but also for the factories, because they don't typically work that way.
So all I'm sorry to interrupt. All the manufacturers that you're working with are working from a shared set of plans. You give each factory, you say, I've got these 3 plans, and that's all you've got. It's not 3 plans per manufacturer, it's 3 plans.
Yeah, yes and no. That we have plans for our development. So in the Fading West project, those are actually plans that originated from their factory. So those are technically their plans. For the East Coast, we have plans for each of our developments, and then we could switch factories and go to a different factory to produce those plans. But we're choosing not to. We've done a little bit of that, but we're now very happy.
Okay, I understand. Yeah. What factors do you consider when you're designing and building these communities? Are there trends or regional influences that you pay attention to?
Yeah, sure. Well, we definitely keep track of lifestyle and what people are interested in, and kind of these mega trends that everyone's following now with work from home and, that term digital nomads. In our communities in North Carolina and in Colorado, you got a lot of people who are flocking into those areas because they no longer have to be tethered to a desk somewhere in some city. So we definitely consider, everyone loves a modern open floor plan, but at the end of the day, when you live in a house, you also kind of need private little spaces to be and to work and to, do all the different activities that a family or a group of people who are all living together need to be able to do. And so we really consider that in our design. So, for example, in a 1,500 square foot home at Pageant Place, every single one of those homes also has a built-in work area desk. That's just, it's such a simple thing, right? But it's got drawers, it's got lights, it's got cabinets, and even though it's not in its own private office, it's a place where someone can sit and work and actually do a job for a whole day. And that is not something that you would normally find built into a 1,500 square foot moderately priced house. So we have things like, we do things like that because we really try to consider lifestyle. We're considering also kind of people's willingness to spend extra time and money on their homes. So we're trying to do things that are very low maintenance, very beautiful, but high quality and low maintenance. So for example, we don't use wood floors in our homes. We use luxury vinyl plank floors in our homes. They're gorgeous. They look just like wood, but they function much better. They don't scratch, they don't stain, they don't get ruined if a little bit of water, gets thrown on them. They can dry out. They're just incredibly durable, and they'll last for 25 years or something like that. Those are the types of things we think about when we're building, because people really appreciate it.
So walk me through the typical development of a new community. What's the first step, and how long does the process take from you deciding, we want to build on this piece of land to having friends and neighbors move in?
Oh my God, it takes forever. It's so, honestly, if I had to summarize my biggest frustration, in the business, it's that. Because what happens is we have a team of folks here who are very talented, and they go out and they find us our land. They work with brokers, they do all sorts of stuff. And we walk them, so they'll go walk it, or we'll walk it, we'll put an offer in, we'll fall in love with a piece of land. So realistically, it's at least a year or two before you can build anything. And if it's raw land, sometimes we're lucky and we can find lots that are finished, and then it's very quick. But if it's raw land and you have to go and get the site platted and approved and then built out with its infrastructure, that is a 2-year process. And there's not really a lot of ways to accelerate that. Especially now, there are such backlogs at all of these bureaucratic boards in all of these counties that, combination of COVID, staffing, interest of so many people doing new projects, and the delays are actually staggering and very frustrating. So, but it's just kind of par for the course. If you want to play in this market, you either have to do that, or you have to be lucky enough and willing to pay enough for finished lots. And, someone a developer who's already done that process for you, and you can buy the finished lots. And there's a lot of that out there too, but you're going to pay up for it a lot. Very expensive.
And you alluded to some of these. Have you found that there's any challenges that recur from project to project? Maybe approvals or waiting, or does each project present sort of its own challenges? I was wondering if you can give me an example.
There's obviously a lot of similarities. There's also a lot of us doing better, as we become more experienced, or, coming up the learning curve. There's certain traps that we don't fall into anymore. I think for us, because we don't have our own factory, making sure that for each project we're selecting the optimal factory for that project, that's definitely something that we're really focused on. And making sure that our budget is in place and that it matches with where we're trying to finalize the transaction at the end of the day, whether it is for sale or for rent. All the big titles of the challenges are the same for every project, but the details differ depending on each project, right? Because something will come out of left field and you're like, oh, that's a new one. But you just kind of deal with it. And I'm a big believer in our company that, always in life, we're going to make mistakes. You cannot be afraid to move forward, at the risk of making a mistake. However, the challenge that I always present to all of us at our company is that let's only make the mistake once, and then let's learn from it, systemize a way to avoid it, and that gives us room so that when we find a different area that we make a different mistake, we just don't make the same mistake twice. And so far, I don't really think we have, which is encouraging.
That is encouraging. I make a mistake at least 3 or 4 times before I learn from it. So have you run into any trouble with supply chain or labor issues? You mentioned that before. How have you been navigating those?
It's been a real challenge. On the days where we get frustrated and things are delayed, and we've had things, for example, in the middle of COVID, we had a house closing that got delayed. I think it was 3 weeks because we were missing a particular bolt on the, a bolt on the patio fence, and we couldn't get our CO because we didn't have the gate up. And it was just like, oh my God, but we couldn't get the bolt. You know what I mean? So there are things like that you just are unavoidable and so minor, and you just realize how many pieces go into the puzzle of finishing the house, whether it's modular or not. But I do feel better when we get frustrated when I hear really experienced people in the home building industry who've been in it for decades and have built thousands and thousands of houses, and they say they've never seen a more challenging time to be in the home building business. Which is a little bit counterintuitive, because if you're just a regular consumer in the market, you see the prices going up, you think it's an amazing time to be in this business. And certainly it is fun when you see the prices come in on the contract, but to get to that point is unbelievably challenging. the answer is a very big yes. We do have supply chain issues. We do have labor issues. We just aggressively manage them on a day-to-day basis. I mean, on the ground, we focus on being a very good employer to both our employees and to our subs. We pay very well. We practice what we preach. You know, we create a really nice a safe and nice work environment. And then when we deal with the factories, the one good thing I can say is that because we're still very small, the factories have buying power that exceeds our own, and we've benefited from that. So on the East Coast, our factory is now, pre-purchasing for us in advance because we can very well predict what we need for the rest of the year and beyond. They are pre-purchasing a lot of the hard-to-secure items for us and for our home. So it's not a perfect solution, but it is helping a lot and is keeping us much closer to the schedule that we want to be on in terms of finishing the houses.
Very good. So what's next for Quartz? You had mentioned doing some work in Idaho. What's coming up in the rest of the year and beyond?
Well, we're very excited because we own the land for what is going to become our first build for rent project. So I mentioned that as a big piece of our strategy, but we haven't built one of those yet. And so we are really focusing on that sector of the market to get our feet wet there. And we're pretty excited about the pipeline that we have in terms of expanding that side of our business. We're pretty excited about some of the vertical integration that we're doing on the East Coast, and we just want to do much more of exactly what we're doing because we finally feel like we've figured out how to do it.
Hit your stride.
Yeah, they call it the flywheel, as they call it. Trying to get the fly. We've been working for 4 years to get the flywheel moving, and it is finally moving. So that's very exciting for us.
Well, it is exciting, and I just want to thank you for your time today, Joanna. This is all very exciting. I look forward to keeping up with you guys. I really appreciate your making the time for me today.
Absolutely, and thanks to you and all you do for the industry. We appreciate it.
My name is John McMullen, and this has been another episode of Inside Modular, the podcast of commercial modular construction. Until next time.